All right, we're going to take a look at what's known as motion effects. Basically, slowing down a clip or speeding it up or even freezing it. And there's a couple of ways to do that. You can do it from clips in the source monitor, or another method is doing it to clips that are already in the timeline. So let's start with the clip in the source monitor. Now, when we do that in the source monitor, we are essentially making a new media clip. As I've said before, most of the time when you're editing, you're not making anything new, even though it's different clips in the timeline. In this case, because you're affecting the speed, you are in fact copying a portion of that clip, making something new, and that new media file is stored, hopefully, with everything else in your hard drive. So, since it takes up space, you don't want to just kind of slow down the entire clip. You want to pick the portion that you're going to need. And sometimes, you can pick a little more than you are in case you want to maybe dissolve to it or something. So I'm going to take a portion of this dog and put an in point there, and I'll probably use that part. And then here, I'll probably be long gone, and put an out point. So now I'm telling Avid that this is the portion I want to affect the speed of that piece of it. So how do we do that? There is an icon here called the Motion Effect Editor, but we can also get to it by going up to Tools, Motion Effect Editor, and this little menu comes up. I'm just going to move that here, and it has all sorts of different ways you can deal with it, the percentage of the rate, but normally here's the speed. Usually defaults at 50%, so half speed. 100% is normal speed, 0 is a freeze frame, 50% is half speed, then we can do minus, have it go backwards. So let's do the 50%, and all this stuff in the beginning level you can leave alone. Make sure it's going to your hard drive. So that's where the new media will live that you're creating. And then go create and render. And pick a bin. Again, it's coming from the B-roll bin, so I'll just put that new modified speed clip in there with that. Okay, once that's created, if you look up here, the regular bin clip has now been replaced with this little speedy kind of clip, which delineates motion. And if we look at the bin, here it is here. Here is the regular clip, right, 2320, and here is the motion affected clip. And it shows you that little icon and says we're at a rate of 15 frames per second. Okay, so let's see what that gave us. It loads it in once it makes it, and we play it, and we see he's slowed down. Okay, so then I can decide, well, which is the piece I really want. I'm going to take it from here when he lifts his head, and let me zoom ahead a little bit, and then kind of over here, and that's enough. And I put down the clip already in regular speed, just so we can see the difference. So here's the regular speed, and then I'm going to add to it the slowed down version. Let's take a look at that. So here we have regular speed and then 50% speed. Okay, so that's pretty simple in the source side. Still dealing with the source side, let's say there was a clip that we wanted to play and then freeze. So let's grab a clip from in here. We have this dog going. Let's see, they start here. Looks like I have some endpoints already. And then it goes through, and I'm going to stop. So I'm just going to add that in regular speed. And so now that's added to the end. Let's play it's going bump it up and up and up. Whoop, right there, I'd like that to freeze. Bump it up and up and up. Now again, this is using this source motion effect method. Okay, we just did it by slowing it down, and now we're going to do it by freeze framing it. And to do that, you pick your frame you want. I want it to freeze right there. And we need to find that exact frame in the source material. Now that's easy enough to do with this icon that says match frame. And what it'll do when I click that, it will load the clip, which it's already loaded here, but put it right at that point. So when I watch this window here, I'm going to click the match frame button. Boom, there we are, the exact point, and it gives me an endpoint. So now I can create a freeze from that frame. Freeze meaning a still image from that frame. And again, I go up to Composer this time. It used to be in Clip where it made sense. Now they moved it to Composer where it kind of doesn't make that much sense, but hey. And we see freeze frame, and we get a selection. How much of a freeze frame you want to make? 5, 15, a minute, make a different duration. We'll go with 15 seconds because I don't need that much. And again, it's going to put it to my drive because it's making new media. And it's going to go to the B-roll bin because it's coming from the B-roll bin. And creating the effect. And now we see that effect. And here, again, there's the little speedy icon, meaning it's been speed modified. And you can see when I play it, nothing happens because it's now a freeze frame. It recreated it just frozen. And if we look over here, we can see that portion of the clip with FF, freeze frame, frame frozen. All right, so now we want to edit that in. So I'm going to go to that point without moving it very carefully. I'm going to put an in point just so I'm sure it'll go there. And I want to edit in some of this. And again, I like to take it in a little bit and just going to grab a bit of it. And I'm going to edit that in, overwrite that in at that point. Let's take a look. Here's the clip. When we get there, it should stop. Boom. Nice. Freeze frame. Now, this kind of stop and go might be better done in the second method, which I'll show you now, and that's employing an effect called time warp. So, let me clear this, and we are going to click this, and here is a clip, and we're going to take the clip, and they run, and they go, and they go, and they go, and they go, and go. And let me lay that into a sequence, new sequence, sequence bin. So there's our clip. I'm going to mute the audio. I took the audio, I didn't want to, but hey. Okay, so now, let's say I want to have them go at regular speed, bop, 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 and then when that dog comes into the frame, I want it to slow down. Now, in this case, we're going to apply an effect. We go to the effects workspace. Okay, we were in the edit workspace, and we dealt with the color, we dealt with the audio, now we're in the effects workspace. You can see things change. So, where do we get time warp? Well, we go over here. Once we're in the effects workspace, it shows us the effects, filters, I'm looking, alphabetical, time warp. Now, they are very it's broken down into different things, but I like using the full time warp because I can adjust it to do any of these things here, and this is better to learn with. Click it, drag it to the clip, drop it on there. Here we go. And every time you put an effect on, you can see it's represented by this purple rectangle. In this case, it's an italicized one because it's a speed thing. So we are there. And so now we want to open up the motion editor, which we can do with this icon or from the tool menu. And now you'll see it's very different looking. And we want to be clicked on this item here, okay? This little speedy man here. And we click that, and this shows up. Now, what this represents is, here's this blue arrow. What this represents is the clip. Only the clip in the effect mode. So you can see as I move it back and forth, the timeline also moves back and forth. Now, if you notice, this green line is parked at 100. As I said before, 100 represents normal speed, 100% speed. If I wanted it to slow down, I would grab, here's a keyframe, and drag it. Let's drag it down to the 50. Now, when I play it, and I can stay within the effect mode by playing it here, and here we go, 50%. You can go fast. If I take it, I'll drag it up to 200%. What does that look like? Okay? So we can play around with all that. Let's start it, however. This method, the timeline method, allows us to kind of stop and go. So let's start it, however, with at 100%. Okay, and let's take it to a point where we're then going to want it to slow down. Let's have it go here. When he comes in, we'll slow it down. So we need to put in a keyframe, right? We talked about this before when we dealt with effects and resize. So we're going a little beyond that now. So here's the add keyframe button. You hit the keyframe, and now you can drag that keyframe down to 50. But if you look here, this kind of like slope thing, what that really means is that it's going to kind of slowly get to the 50. So let's play that. Let's take a look at the picture. And it slows to 50 once we get there. I'd rather, and that's something you can do if you want, but I'd rather have it right away, just jump to 50%. So the way we do that is we right-click or control-click the keyframe, and you'll see there's options. Shelf, linear, spline, okay? We want shelf. Shelf means it will drop right off. Watch the display if you can. Click it, boom, falls off the shelf. And so immediately at that point, it will go to the 50%. Let's watch it, going along, and boom. Okay, once it got past that, it went into the 50% mode. Get that back a little bit, here we go. And 50% speed. Now, what's nice about this is then you can change it. Remember we went through all that about then freezing it here? So we are going to do that again. This time add a keyframe right there. And this time we're going to drag that to 0. And how do you know exactly? Well, you can see the chart here, but if you watch down here, you'll see the number changing. Take a look down there, and you can see, so that's how you can tell where you're at. So I'm going to stop it there. That's 0. And take this back. And we're going to let it play. And slow down. And freeze. Beautiful. I don't know if you could hear my dog barking. He's not happy that I locked him out of the room while I'm doing this. But that's just too bad. These are hard times, and he's just going to have to get used to it. So I'm going to freeze this for a little bit, and then I want it to go in reverse. Okay, make a keyframe. How do we go in reverse? We have to drag this down. Keep dragging it. I don't see the chart, but I can read those numbers. Minus 100. Beautiful. Let's go back. Let's see what we got. Play. Regular. Slow. Freeze. Reverse. Okay, now you may not obviously do all these things, go here, that, back and forth, but that's what you can do. So this method of adding it to a clip already in the timeline might be a bit easier than the other one. The only thing you have to know is that because we're playing with the speed of the clip, it may extend the length of the clip in the timeline. So or shorten it. It may change the whole timing of everything, but you'll have to play around with that. Sometimes if I know I'm going to do something like this, I'll put this clip at like the end of the timeline and then play around with it and then kind of drag it with the segment mode and place it where I want it in the timeline once I have it done. Now, one thing you should know is that in Avid, audio does not get affected. Audio will not be slowed down or sped up. That's on its own little universe there. So this is strictly for video. Okay, so there's two methods. The source motion editor, where you create slow or fast media, and the time warp effect to do it in the timeline.